President Trump is eager to get back to those big live campaign rallies, but it's far from clear when we'll get there. So in the meantime, campaigns are trying to do virtually what they've done in person before, including Vice President Joe Biden now scheduling virtual campaign rallies in Florida and in Michigan. Tom Peters was an early adopter of the virtual approach to campaigning and marketing, having founded UCampaign, which has produced apps for the Ted Cruz and Donald Trump for President campaigns, among others, and RumbleUp, a peer-to-peer texting tool. We welcome him now back to Bloomberg. So, Tom, it's always great to have you with us. I feel like the world is coming to you, whether you like it or not. You were there early. Give us a sense of what is doable in this election year.
Well, some days it definitely feels that way. It's extraordinary circumstances. I mean, we haven't seen an election like this in over 100 years since the Spanish flu. And what happened, I'd say, since we last spoke maybe a month and a half ago, is that campaigns are emerging from their period of shock. There was obviously a scramble to move towards not just virtual campaigning, but running the campaign virtually, the actual staff members from their homes instead of from a campaign headquarters where communication is only a shout away. What we're seeing now is, there's some campaigns that don't have to worry about a primary challenge, and they can wait until November to kind of see where the country's at in terms of our COVID response. But we still have a huge number of primaries to go. June 2nd is kind of being called a mini Super Tuesday with, I think, 9 states all having their primaries that day. And because of COVID, most of those states have moved to a no questions asked mail-in ballot policy, which is presenting a new layer of challenges for campaigns. And throughout all of this, being able to have peer-to-peer live texting conversations with the constituents you need to get to the ballot box, whether by mail or in person, has turned out to be really critical.
So there's a lot that I hope we get a chance to go over there, but let's start with the difference between a virtual campaign rally on the one hand and a peer-to-peer individual message on the other. It strikes me that one is sort of wholesale and one is retail. Do we know which is more effective?
So the personal peer-to-peer texting is extremely effective. We helped folks who have been displaced by Hurricane Michael turn out in a 10% boost in turnout despite the hurricane compared to the previous midterm election. So we know that in crisis
was that the one in the panhandle of Florida? Is that where it was?
Exactly, yeah. Bay County and those connecting counties. And so we know from that experience, we know from helping state party in Pennsylvania win 3 special elections, that with COVID, people have lots and lots of questions. They want to know if they can get a mail-in ballot. They want to know how to fill one out. They want to know when the deadline is. They want to know if it's safe to come out and vote in person, what precautions are being taken. And so for all those things, the campaign can have their volunteers text with folks one-on-one and get their questions answered. So it's extremely effective. It's also effective, though, as you said, for opening the door to those other virtual campaign rallies. So we see a lot of texts going out inviting people to a private Zoom meeting. And, instead of one of these like swanky cocktail hours with $500 a plate, it's something similar. Make a significant donation and get a private Zoom link to be part of a Zoom meeting with the candidate. Or if you're going a little bit more grassroots style, it might be a link to a private YouTube live stream where people can enter in their comments, and those are what get selected as questions.
Fascinating. Do we have any sense of whether those virtual campaign rallies would be effective? You say we know with the text, we have the experience of that. Do we have any idea of how much a campaign loses by going that route versus as I say, President Trump was famous for it, those huge rallies?
Well, to compare one important statistic, a good field program, door-to-door canvassing, precinct captains, the industry standard is that can give you about 3 to 4% of a lift. So campaigns don't have that right now. We've seen in our texting programs demonstrated lift in between 4 and 10% or more. So, and that's also done at greater scale. So it's actually increased the speed of adoption of peer-to-peer texting, a trend that had already begun before COVID hit, but now it's sort of like the last communication channel standing. it is effective. It's not quite as effective as getting people at one of those big in-person rallies, but it's the next best thing.
When we've talked before, you said that as a practical matter over the past, half dozen years, the Republicans have been ahead on this aspect of campaigning, ahead of the Democrats. Can the Democrats catch up?
Yeah, I should qualify that. The Republicans have, in the peer-to-peer texting space, been catching up very quickly. The Democrats had definitely a lead in peer-to-peer texting.
The Democrats had the lead on peer-to-peer texting. Is that right? The Democrats had the lead on peer-to-peer texting?
Yes, they've texted longer and they text more. It's sort of like an essential campaign tool, and they do it all year round. Republicans still tend to cluster their texts closer to when the actual election day is, but that's changed. What I said before and what is true is that in general, Republicans are using online organizing for fundraising, et cetera, better. And that's why Trump's numbers and the RNC's numbers are just massive compared to Vice President Biden and the DNC, for instance.
I want to come back to one last thing here, which I think could be terribly important. That is mail-in voting. We just talked to Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, in the first hour of Balance of Power, and she is a big proponent of this for November as a practical matter. Can we do that safely and securely?
It's possible, but there's a lot of challenges that Republicans are skeptical of, and it's not as the Democrats like to say, voter disenfranchisement. The mail USPS lost 21 million ballots over the last 4 elections.
Wow.
We don't know where they went, and there is a lot more opportunity for voter fraud, and there's a lot more opportunity for simple voter confusion. So younger people who don't know how to put a stamp on their mail. I mean, I'm not joking.
That's right.
Older folks who have voted at the same older folks who voted at the same place for 30 years can't do it anymore. So it's going to be a mess.
Many thanks to Tom Peters of RumbleUp.